Welcome back to the Playing Out Loud podcast. Today we have in studio two more incredible performing artists and educators and designers and everything. We have Lynne Tobin and we have Bill Fishburn. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, great to have you. So let's jump in. Lynne, I know you the least, so we're going to jump into you first. Lynne, you are a cellist with the Traverse City Philharmonic, and you are the director of the Philharmonic's Civic String Orchestras, which I happen to be a part of, and I am personally a big fan of. But that is the multi-age community orchestra program. So you can audition for different levels, right? There's Prelude and Sinfonia.
That's exactly right. So we have two levels of orchestra. We have sort of a beginner entry-level orchestra for younger students and adults who either have never played and recently started to learn to play a stringed instrument, or adults who played when they were younger, got away from it while they were building a career, having a family, and now they're coming back to playing their violin, viola, cello, or bass.
Yeah.
And then we have a more advanced orchestra for older students and adults who have been playing pretty consistently.
Yeah. And that is playing year-round now, right? Because it used to just be fall and spring, but this year you had some advancements in the summer program?
That's exactly right. So we've always offered a fall semester and a winter semester. And then we were off for late spring, all of summer. We were rehearsing at Central United Methodist Church for several decades. They were gracious in hosting us there. But now that the TC Philharmonic has their new symphonic center and community music school, we have a wonderful place to rehearse. So it's air-conditioned. It's open year-round. So we have this great venue, rehearsal space. Last year, we started a summer pops orchestra, which is different than the primarily classical orchestra that we have for our other two semesters. So it was a big experiment. We were hoping to have maybe 20 people. We ended up with 50 the first time out.
Yes.
Performed at the Civic Center on the TC Philharmonic Summer Series. So it was extremely popular. Fun. We did music from the 1970s. All the musicians dressed in, kind of 70s era clothes.
Fun and funky.
Right. Some of us are old enough that we actually had clothing from the 70s. I graduated from high school in 1971, so, that was very familiar clothing to me. But the high school students really got into it. And we did a lot of research during rehearsal breaks. We'd get on my iPad and I'd show them, what 70s clothing looked like. And they really got into it. And the costumes were fabulous. So it was really fun. We had about 500 people in the audience.
Wow.
Free concert at the Civic Center, and it was very successful. So yes, now we are year-round.
I love that. And you're going to continue that this coming summer, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm planning on it.
Will it stay 70s or move into we'll go through the decades like 80s, 90s, go back to the 20s?
That's a great question. So, this first time out, just 70s music just appealed to me, and there were a lot of arrangements. I always have to find arrangements of strictly string orchestra pieces that we can do. We did add electric bass, we did add electric guitar and drums. But, pops it's popular music. So there's lots of different ways we can go. We're not going to repeat the 70s, and we're not necessarily going to stay into a decade. I haven't chosen for sure, but I asked for suggestions from the musicians. And one of the suggestions I really like is game music.
Ooh.
So there's tons of music being actually composed for, different video games, and some of those are really popular. And it's a genre that I know very little about. So to go from the 70s, where I knew a lot about the music, and in fact, it was fascinating to me that songs that I thought were going to be very easy because they were familiar, turned out to not be familiar to anyone in the Pops Orchestra last summer, except those of us who are older. So that was, okay. This is, I thought you knew Fire and Rain by James Taylor. Maybe not.
Okay.
So this would be really new for me. So I'd be learning everything new. But I think game music would be fun. Someone else suggested Motown.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different things out there. But the challenge for me is I have to find string orchestra arrangements that are playable by the level of musician that we have.
Yeah.
And so that's the trick. It's just because you like a song doesn't mean it's already arranged for string orchestra.
Yeah. I mean, all I can think of in my head is like Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Like, do, do, do. I'm like, there's got to be a viola part out there for me. do, 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 do. And then all of a sudden, just people run around like little stars and mushrooms or something crazy. I don't know. But well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that. I know the winter schedule is just getting posted. So, and there's someone new working with the Civic String Orchestras this winter, right? From
That's
Los
exactly
Angeles?
right. Yeah. So for the first time in the 22 years of the program, we're expanding our staff. I've been the conductor for 22 years. And so now we're bringing in, I'm very excited, Michael McLean. He is a composer, conductor, viola player. He's recently relocated to Traverse City from Los Angeles, where he's been playing and teaching for the last 20 years. And, we're just fortunate that he landed here, that he was interested in the program. He came and sat in on a rehearsal just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Was very pleased with the program, excited about the program, kind of liked the feel of it and how enthusiastic the members are.
Yeah.
And so we approached him and he applied for the job and he's been hired.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had the chance to meet him because two things. One, I feel like it's less common in an orchestra to find violists out of all the first, second, violins. And there's a sea of cellos, just a sea of them.
Cello is a very
Which is great.
Yeah.
And there's 2 or 3 basses.
Yeah, we have 2.
2, yeah.
Yep.
And violas, were pretty small. And so I was excited to see, a new face, but then also from Los Angeles. I was like, where did you live? Because I lived there for 6 years. And I was like, I have so much to talk about. So I'm excited. That's really exciting also that the TC Phil is growing so much.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
just the 2 things, a new staff person, but also the summer program, expecting 20, getting twice plus that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
huge.
It is huge. It is huge. We've grown consistently over the years. Obviously, there was a downturn during COVID because schools weren't in session, and we did a virtual semester that year. It was a real challenge. But the string programs in Traverse City on both sides of town at TCAPS, the string programs are incredible. They're really strong. They have fabulous, fabulous instructors. And so the civic program grows due to that. And also just word getting out, more adults coming and joining us.
Yeah.
The multi-generational nature of it is really different and fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
we're growing all the time. It's very exciting.
I think so. I feel like there is I'm calling it a soft renaissance of the performing arts in this region, because we've seen, like, Mashup is a great example of something totally new, bombastic, incredible, creative, nothing like it, that's still small in the area, but is gaining traction. The TC Phil used to be the Symphony. Now it's the Phil, which I love that name. But the community schools, I think, are getting more traction. Like, everything's softly growing at a reasonable pace, hopefully. And it feels sustainable, though, because the region has changed. Having, been born and raised here, I didn't know much about the Symphony, now Phil, and I'm elated just to see all the people that are part of it. And I've only seen a very small part. So I look forward to Two Bit Christmas, too.
Yeah.
I need to see that.
I definitely need to go to that.
You've alluded to this, but you have been an independent school educator for over 40 years. You recently retired teaching general music and strings at Pathfinder here in town. And prior to that, you taught music and photography at Emerson School in Ann Arbor. Were you at Pathfinder for a majority of those 40 years? Or how long were you
I was at the
Pathfinder?
Pathfinder School for the last 17
Oh, wow.
of my
Okay.
40 years. I was at Savannah Country Day School in Georgia for 15 years. Then I moved to Ann Arbor. I was at the Emerson School for 8 years and the Ann Arbor School for Performing Arts during that time, and then relocated up here and ended my career at the Pathfinder School, which was really perfect. I was extremely fortunate to
Yeah.
land there. It was the first time in all of those years that I had taught general music. So I was strictly orchestra, strings teacher
Okay.
until the last 17 years of my
Wow.
career. And then I did general music, and it was very kind of Orff-based instrumental music, but then everything that goes with general music with children, because I was teaching preschool 3-year-olds through 8th grade.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
But it was really fun.
Yeah.
What could be more fun than having music with children every day
Yeah.
as a career?
I can think of fewer things, other than maybe for me theater. But yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But to be able
Yeah.
to make your career
Yeah.
teaching something in the fine arts, and working with kids that way. Plus, I mean, when you're a general music teacher, you get every kid in school. It's like teaching PE or, any of the other what they call specials or co-curriculars. You get everybody. It's not just that fifth grade class that the fifth grade teacher is working with. You've got every kid in school.
I love it.
And so it's a challenge because you have to meet each kid where they are and,
I think that's what makes you perfect for the role you're in, is because in the community orchestras, it's middle school kids in there all the way through 70s. I mean, it's such a wide range and everyone's coming from varied backgrounds and knowledge and confidence and everything else.
Yeah.
So that background probably just makes you such a great fit for what you're currently doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, with the civic orchestra, what I tell people is the age of the civic musician is 8 to 80 because literally we have had kids as young as 8 and we do have current members who are in their 80s. So,
wow, yeah. I love it.
I was just going to say, it's nice that with arts, it seems that there is something for every level, whether it's the beginner or the third grade all the way up. There's something that everybody can do.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that I recently learned about you is, so you mentioned you were at Savannah Country Day School in Georgia, but you were also the principal cellist of the Savannah Symphony. And I love this part. To thank your many, many years of work with children in the community, the mayor proclaimed April 18th, 1994 as Lynne Tobin Day in the city of Savannah. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard.
It was given to me. There was a proclamation. It hangs on my wall in my studio from the mayor. It was given to me the night of my last big concert in Savannah after 15 years of teaching there. But I was out in the community. I had a community orchestras. They were all just students. I've never done the multi-age until I moved here. But I did a lot of youth orchestra work there. I started some scholarship programs and worked with a number of different students throughout the community. So I was very gratified to receive that award. It was really special.
That's fantastic. I feel like every April 18th should be Lynne Tobin Day.
I still have students who were, kids who are now adults. Some are professional musicians. I still have former students who are now in their 40s, right? Contact me on April 18th.
Aw.
Miss Tobin. Happy Lynne Tobin Day.
We might have to. You might be hearing from me that day.
Good. I'd love that, Chelsea.
You also have attended Interlochen Arts Academy, University of Michigan, which is where you got your BM in cello performance. You have a master's in music from Northern Illinois University, and you participated in Project Zero Summer Institute, which was through Harvard. And then in 2014, you were recognized as an outstanding educator by the Traverse City Chamber of Commerce.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, 40 years.
You've got a day
when you do something for 40 years, you better be accomplishing a little bit in there, right?
This is a good lesson for folks. I think some of the hardest part of being a performing artist of any shape or size is continuing to show up, regardless of whether you're getting paid or not, right? We don't get paid to rehearse at home for stuff that we do. And so the consistency in doing something pays off in many ways, whether that's through awards or days or just feeling rooted and like, this is what I love doing. And I was thinking about this earlier, that the idea of retirement, people say, oh, I can't wait till I get to retirement, this and that. And I think, I don't think that way, I guess, about anything with the performing arts, because I just want to do it till you can't do it.
Right.
I don't know. So that's my 2 cents on that. But 40 years is incredible.
Well, thank you.
So glad to have you here.
It's been a wonderful career.
Yes.
Truly.
And you also perform for weddings and special events all across northern Michigan, not just Traverse City, with Bay North Strings. And you're in a special piano-cello duo that features repertoire of American songbook classics with your husband, Tim Sparling, and that's called Embraceable 2.
That's right. So that little group, that duo, is my retirement project.
Okay.
So Tim is a pianist, and his genres are like blues and rock primarily, and some jazz. And I'm classically trained, completely classically trained. So for all the years that we've been married, people, when they meet us and find out that we're both musicians, they say, oh, you must have so much fun playing together at home. And we're like, no, actually, I'm completely dependent on note reading. And Tim plays off chord charts, and he improvises beautifully. And so that's his That's his way.
Mm-hmm.
That's his entry, point. And mine is totally notation based. So
Yeah.
we never played together. But when I retired, I said, hey, let's see if we can figure something out. We both love American Songbook classics. So it's like anything Frank Sinatra would have sung or Ella Fitzgerald. It's that whole era of mostly the 40s. And so we just started doing it. I wrote everything out painstakingly. All the bass lines that I'm plucking, whatever. It's all notated. And Tim's reading off song charts and chord charts, but we do it. It's the first time we've had the opportunity to play together. So for us, it's like extended date night, actually also playing.
Yeah,
it's really
Nice.
fun.
I love that. Yeah. I don't know of any other couples that do that. I mean, like that play instruments together in that the unique of a way, I guess. That's so fun.
Yeah, we've had to figure it out. But it's fun. It's really fun. It's been very good for me because it's really, really different than anything I traditionally play.
Yeah. I think that's why I love singing jazz, like at home, is because it's such a riff. You can just kind of go where you're feeling it. But at the same time, I also like classically trained. You learn to read music. If you play viola, you learn an entirely different clef as well. And so you're stuck to those things, but it is fun to float around at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Fun. Okay, Bill, your turn. I know you're hiding over there.
Yes. Directly across from you.
Yes, you can't hide. Okay, so you hold a BFA in theater production and design from Miami University in Ohio.
Yes.
Not Florida.
Florida.
And that's north of Cincinnati?
Yeah, about a half hour, 45 minutes north.
All right. And you have an emphasis on sound and lighting from that.
Correct.
Tell us about how did you decide you wanted to do sound and lighting design? I don't know anybody else, honestly, who has this degree. So
pretty much I grew up, I'm a third theater person.
Okay.
And so kind of I like to say I had it with my bottle, theater with my bottle. Got involved with community theater at about age of 9 or something like that. Being on stage and then kind of gravitated towards the technical side because some of the shows didn't have parts for young kids. So I kind of gravitated towards that. And my dad actually taught at Miami of Ohio, lighting and sound.
Okay.
And so that kind of got into it through that way. And then in high school did theater, but because of insurance and stuff, we couldn't really do tech. So as mainline stage, got into music. Originally went to Miami to study music. I was wanting to do performance, but you could only do the education part.
Oh,
and
okay.
couldn't grasp theory that well. And so I was looking for something else to do. And a best friend of mine at the time was having issues. He didn't want to be a math major anymore. So he was trying to find another route and went into theater. And it's like, that's where my love has always been and kind of drawn to that. And I made the switch after my freshman year of college to be a theater production and design. And we had a lot of lighting people at the time, so I kind of gravitated towards sound just so that they needed somebody there to do that. But they also taught set design, you learned props, you learned makeup, you learned the whole gambit of the technical side of things. And then everybody sort of found the niche that they wanted to. We had people come dead set, I want to do this. And then they left being like a props master. They wanted stage manager, left prop master. And so you just had this overall education. So I think mainly got into it because of family.
Yeah. All right. I love it.
The short of the long.
In 1993, you won runner-up for Best Light Design at the Region 2 Kennedy Center College Theater Festival. Our last episode, Aaron wrote something for the same Kennedy Center College Theater Festival here in Michigan when we were in college. So I feel like there's a pattern now happening where we have folks that are exposed to that because not a lot of people know about it, but that's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
I was very
accolade.
surprised.
Yeah. And that was for your design for, I'm going to butcher this. Maanen.
Yep.
What is that?
It took place, if I remember right, kind of during the 20s, like speakeasy times and stuff like that.
Okay.
Don't exactly remember the plot of the play.
Sure.
But the director at the time set it in a noir style. So all the costumes were black and like gray tone. It was very black and white themed. And so makeup was gray scales. And so I had to, and this was before LED lights, so we had to pick gel colors and all that stuff. And so I had to dive into how do I take film noir lighting, the black and white style, and put it on stage.
Wow.
And so I watched a lot of film noir movies and fell in love with that genre.
Yeah.
And so it involved a lot of extreme angles because of the shadows and light pools that those movies had, and found a lot of neutral grayscale gels to use.
Yeah.
And so it was a challenge for me I'd go in and just experiment with where to place lights to get the shades and the highlights that the film, that style demanded.
Yeah.
And so.
Wow. That sounds like a pretty big challenge considering how light works.
Yes.
And then when you're sort of having to work in such a specific like grayscale, that's really challenging.
Yeah, but it definitely taught me a lot about how to use equipment and stuff, and also just perseverance and creating at the end of it, just sitting back and being like, this was in the top 5.
That's great. Yeah. You are also the lighting technical chair at the Old Town Playhouse, where you also received a Volunteer of the Year award in 2023. Previously, we're on the artistic committee there as well. And you have worked with a ton of different theaters in this region and elsewhere. So obviously OTP, Mashup Rock and Roll, Parallel 45 when they were still here, TCAPS West High School, and Glen Lake Community Schools. So you're expanding out. There's a pattern.
Slowly.
But you have professional credits with the People's Light and Theater Company over in Pennsylvania, as well as being the master electrician and designer at the, am I going to say this right? Bailiwick Theater in Chicago.
Yep.
You've done board operator for lots of different avant-garde theater companies in Chicago, which is a huge theater hub. So you have tons of credits in your, how many years would you say you've been doing this now?
40 years.
All right. There's a pattern. Okay. All right. I don't know. I feel like, all right. I did not choose that about both of you, to be clear. All right. Let's jump in a little bit. We always like to talk to our guests about their whys. A big part of people connecting with artists of all different types is like, why did you get into it? So family was a big influence for you in getting into lighting. Lynne, I'd love to hear a little bit more about did you fall in love with the cello? Did you have an aha moment and decide that's what you really loved and therefore you wanted to pursue that in higher education? Or how did that come about for you?
Well, I do not come from a musical family. No one in my family played a musical instrument. So when I was in 4th grade in Plymouth, Michigan, in the public schools, they brought in members of the Detroit Symphony and different quartets. They would play in the gymnasium for, all the 4th graders, and then we would get to do a little hands-on. Here's what a violin feels like. Here's what cello feels like. So that was my entry point. I mean, it was just through the public schools. I gravitated toward the cello. I think I liked the sound of it. The range of the cello is the same as the range of the human voice. So often when people find out I play the cello, they say, oh, I love the cello. Well, you love the cello because it's the range of the human voice. Yeah, now I feel the same way about the viola because to me, I love the viola and it's just like sort of an easier to carry around cello.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But I like, it feels very human voice to me.
Yeah.
So, that's how I started, is public schools.
And what made you want to pursue that, though? Was it Emerson or?
Well, no, I went to
University of
actually, I
Michigan.
graduated from Interlochen Arts Academy. I was very fortunate to spend my senior year there. I think that when I was in school, I don't know, I was sort of known as the cello player.
Okay.
It was something I did well. And so I always felt proud of it. And, I had the opportunity to go to Interlochen. When I was at Interlochen, you're surrounded by people who are doing what you love as well, which is the amazing thing for, I think, all the kids who go to Interlochen. Suddenly you're with all of these people who are as passionate about, your art form as you are. So I only applied to one school. I applied to the University of Michigan. I knew the cello teacher there because I had worked with him as a high school student in Plymouth, Michigan. And that's where I went, and it was just from there. But I think what's interesting in my case is I have 2 degrees in cello performance.
Yeah.
But then I ended up being a teacher for 40 years. So that happened by accident. That was a total accident.
The education part?
Yes. Yeah.
How would you define that as an accident? I accidentally picked up a baton one day.
Well, this is, almost. It's even weirder than that. So when I was graduating from Northern Illinois University with my master's in cello performance. I had started to take auditions, which is what you do because you're looking for an orchestral job. I auditioned in Chicago It was a remote audition. The conductor came to Chicago from the Arkansas Symphony. So I didn't even know where Arkansas was. I have to say, I'm like a typical American who doesn't know geography.
South.
Had to get, yes, right. Way before the internet when you actually had to like go find maps.
Yep.
So I auditioned for principal cello of the Arkansas Symphony. I was given the job. I was awarded the job. It was my first job right out of college. I was super excited. They sent me a contract, which I read, and it said part of the responsibilities was teaching as assigned. So I called them because you didn't have email back then. And I said, can you explain to me a little bit about what this teaching is? I don't have a lot of teaching experience.
Yeah.
I've taught some private cello lessons, but that's my experience. And they said, oh, don't worry about it. So I said, okay, I won't worry about
famous
it.
last words.
So I pick up everything, move to Little Rock, Arkansas, and find out that my assignment is teaching violin to grades 1 through 6 at a private Lutheran school 50 miles outside of Little Rock. That was part of my contract. I have since learned to read contracts much better. But so that was my assignment. And so I didn't own a violin. I didn't play the violin. And that's what I was responsible for doing.
So you quite literally fell into.
It was a complete accident.
Yeah.
And I had to fly by the seat of my pants, borrow a violin, ask my friends in the Arkansas Symphony, how to play it. Literally stay one lesson ahead of the kids for the entire year. And so that was my start.
Wow. How long did you do that? Was it just a year?
Yeah, it was a terrible job. Not the
be honest,
you
Lynne.
know what? Not the teaching part. I actually liked the teaching part.
Yeah.
That was fun. I loved working with kids. We figured it out, but it was not a great job. So then shortly after that, I got this job in Savannah, Georgia, as principal cellist of the Savannah Symphony. Moved to Georgia and was approached by some parents of some of my private cello students to start a string program at Savannah Country Day School. And I ended up doing it. Again, I wasn't trained to do it, and I learned how to play the viola because we didn't have any violas at the time. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Let's figure this out. So it's all been, for me, it's just been happenstance. It really has been. And fortunately, I ended up loving it.
Yeah.
And having this great career, which I never would have had. So, serendipity, I guess.
Yeah. I think some of the best things in life are the surprises.
Yes.
Even if they're a little painful at first, like teaching an instrument you've never played before to a bunch of small people you've never heard.
And when it's your first job and you're, 20, what was I, 22, 23 years old, you don't say no.
No.
You just, you just mildly freak out and then figure out how to do it. And that's what I did.
Yep.
And I feel like that's been kind of the pattern of my career is I've had to do a lot of things that I'm not trained to do. I'm not like... And you figure it out.
Yeah. As a person who is not trained to do podcasts, this is our 8th episode, I can relate.
Yeah.
A little bit less technical. I'm not playing an instrument, but yeah, that's an incredible story. All right, Bill, you've told us a little bit about the folks that got you into lighting design, but I want to ask you a little bit more about what you love most about your career so far in lighting design. Obviously, Lynne is very passionate about all the adventures she's been on in education, which was not the plan, but clearly the plan. But just kind of curious what what has been most enjoyable for you for lighting design?
I think one of the things is definitely being able to just create art. This is like I consider it my art form. I like to say it's painting with lights because I'm definitely not good with a paintbrush at all. But recently, kind of stumbled in. I have gotten involved with the young company and just being there teaching some of the kids because they've expanded to include a technical program. And so I think teaching I'm enjoying passing it on. Because before that, there were a couple of other young kids who I did kind of take under my wing to teach. One of them was my own child. Another one was her best friend, who is now in her senior year at a conservatory program for lighting design.
Oh, wow.
And so just that, and even more recently with some adults, as yourself, at Old Town Playhouse, teaching others how to do this. So one, I can get a break, and two, we can get education out there. But I think falling into the education side of it is also kind of nice.
Yeah.
So.
It's surprising, I think, how many folks start out as an individual contributor of some level as a performing artist. And because of the nature of collaboration that is required through performing arts, end up really loving the education side of things. We've had a couple folks on, Leslie from Mashup, who talked about, her experience of getting into that with Interlochen and creating the cinematic program. And that was not on her docket before. She was in LA. All these stories have led to this general idea of passing it along. And I think that's the root of performing arts too, is it is a communication tool. It's one of the oldest things we have history and record of is how people passed stories along. And performing arts is that storytelling. It's in an orchestra if you're playing Frosty the Snowman. Or from operas, and you're hearing these just dynamic, dramatic scores and these bombastic characters. And it's in lighting design when you have a little to no set. And so the light acts as a character and a set, and the sound can really make you feel like you're in a story that you've never even heard before. All these different aspects.
Yeah, because most of the patrons that come, a lot of the times, like when I write the cues and stuff, there are things where it's just like only myself or maybe one or two other people might notice what's going on. But it's like most patrons don't get some of that subtle subcontext of what lighting and sound and some of the other visual parts of theater can do. But
which is also a good thing, because I think when you see a show that has many components to it, having it feel cohesive sometimes really hard for actor to accomplish with all the different heads of a theater show, we'll just say. But the same can be applied to other aspects. And so in an orchestra too, we're not, yes, there's a first chair, right? There's a concert, there's all these different aspects, and you sit in your orchestra based on X, Y, and Z, but no one's coming to just see me, because they're not going to hear me. They're going to hear me with a sea of other 40 plus, string players. And it is so cohesive in that way, but that's what makes it so great.
Right.
Right,
it's collaboration.
Collaboration.
Working for the common goal.
Yeah, and that goal being some form of storytelling, whether it's for entertainment purposes or thought-provoking or making you feel good around the holidays, or the very human side of things that are like sad and I need an outlet, and so I choose music. One of my favorite podcasts, actually, I don't know if they're still recording seasons, but it's out of New York, and it's a interview with somebody who has chosen a piece of music, and they tell a story of what that piece of music reminds them of. And early on in the first season, there's a gentleman who was a New York City firefighter that responded to 9/11. He was there the day of. And his song, I think, was, I'm going to forget the name, but it was something we've all heard. It was like, dun, da, da, dun, 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 da, da, da. That, it's not Chariots of Fire. That's totally the wrong.
Like Ride of the Valkyries.
Yes, Ride of the Valkyries. And so whenever he hears that, it reminds him of like the courage and everything that came out for him during that workday. And he's a fireman, you would never. So these incredible stories that people relate with music in particular, it's just one of my all-time favorites. So good. Also, between the two of you, you both have performed outside of Northern Michigan. And I am curious if you can tell me some of your, I guess we'd say, additional highlights. You've told us a little bit about Savannah and Little Rock and stuff, but I'd love to hear a little bit about, those experiences and, what you've maybe taken from them now that you've been in Northern Michigan for some time now.
Well, I think anywhere I've lived and taught and performed, from Little Rock, my first job in Arkansas, to Savannah, two totally different regions. I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Chicago, raised in Michigan, had never been to Arkansas. When I moved there, it was a totally different culture. And even though it wasn't a great job and it was a hard first job for me, it was eye-opening, how different the people were and the children that I worked with. And then moving to Savannah, Georgia, which is a very gracious, deep South community. Really, really different. And we're talking about early 70s, is when this was all, or late 70s, I guess, by then for me. Just a different climate, not only temperature, but just really different people than Midwestern people. And, I think all of the musical experiences that I've had that then I brought back to Michigan have just expanded my mind as a person and as a musician. And each educational experience builds on the one before. So gaining experience constantly helped me to become a better teacher. And, I've been very lucky to teach at schools that were outstanding schools with lots of colleagues who were fabulous teachers. Not necessarily in music, but just learning from other educators. Attending Project Zero at Harvard was mind-blowing. It's a fantastic research program that they have on how to teach anything through the entry point of the arts. And it was so edifying to be on that campus, inspiring, just amazing. So I think all of those experiences that I've been fortunate enough to have, I try to bring back to my own teaching and to my own playing, as a professional musician. And certainly everything I've learned as a professional musician, I try to share in some way at the appropriate level with all of the students that I work with. So it's just cumulative. I think when you're in the arts, you're just so lucky to be surrounded by enthusiastic, amazing people for your entire career. For your whole life.
Yeah. Lovely. How about you, Bill? Did you have any mentors, I guess, between Chicago, Pennsylvania? Anything that you learned in those areas that you can remember, like, taking with you when you moved back to Northern Michigan?
One of the things that stuck with me when I was from out in Pennsylvania, working with a designer who mostly did like operas and stuff like that, but he would do the occasional play, was just, I guess, kind of using sometimes found objects, if that's a right way to, because in lighting, to create sometimes light and shadow, we have what's called a gobo, which is pretty much a thin piece of metal with a pattern, a reverse pattern, negative, cut out on it so that when you cast it on the stage, it'll look like tree branches or leaves or geometric shapes. And so instead of, at the time, I've much more expensive now, but, instead of spending the time to get a pattern that he couldn't figure out, we went to the hardware store and found some sort of wire mesh that was like, yep, this is what I need.
Oh, wow.
So we bought like $1 piece of wire mesh instead of spending probably like $6 on something he couldn't really use. And so, just kind of helping to think outside the box on how to create art. And then in Chicago, didn't really have many mentors, but the one thing that I think I brought back and helped me with mashup was a lot of times with these smaller theater groups, startup theater groups, you don't have a dedicated space like at the Bailiwick or any of the other semi-professional theaters. So you're going in a very short amount of time, loading in, doing the show, loading out. And so, that was kind of a pain in Chicago, and then move up here and get involved with mashup. And for, the 9 years I've been, 8-9 years I've been involved with it before we got the space at the mall, was we'd move in day of, set everything up. At the end of the weekend, we'd strike it, put it in a truck, come back the next weekend, bring it up. And so that kind of translated to being able to do that with mashup. It's like, oh, this is familiar.
The load in, load out is a lot. What do you both think are unique challenges to the Northern Michigan area when it comes to performing arts? You've spent time elsewhere, but been here for a minute. Northern Michigan's changed and evolved quite a bit, certainly since I grew up here. We've seen a growth of population. We've seen a little bit more diversity in that population. But what do you think are some of the unique, I guess, if there are any, and maybe there aren't, but some unique challenges with this growing community and the performing arts? Is it not enough opportunity maybe yet to match the demand, or is it needing more educators for the demand? I'm just kind of curious if there's anything you think that's unique, that's a challenge in this region.
I think for me and for my program, for the Civic Orchestra program, the biggest challenge is performance space. There's just a dearth of decent performing space that we have access to. It's a challenge all the time. And as the orchestras grow, we just don't have really adequate performance space. Yeah, so that's our challenge. Our challenge is to find a place to perform. Our performance coming up on December 2nd is at Central High School Auditorium, and we're very excited about it. And looking forward to performing there for the first time. But it's a busy space, I mean, they have their own needs, and so availability is an issue, and that happens to us all the time.
Yeah.
You need a space where you can have an audience of, say, 500 to 600 people that is affordable and accessible and has a large enough stage for an orchestra of 50, 60 people. It's a lot.
Yeah. And parking.
Parking.
The bane of everyone's existence
It
in this town.
definitely is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of parking now at the Chairland Mall. So
Yeah. Although,
seriously, I mean,
It's a
come
big
on,
win.
it's a big win. There's so much going on there. It's such an exciting place to be a part of. I know at the TC Phil Center, having the growth all around us is so exciting.
It's so pretty too.
Yeah.
Like being in that space, I feel like I'm walking into. There's a couple concert halls where I would see the Los Angeles Opera do some smaller performances, and just beautiful spaces. You walk in and you feel like, yes, this is
it's a great home.
Something great's going to happen.
Yeah, and it needs to be supported. I mean, the community needs to, financially support what we're trying to do there, what everybody's trying to do there.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. That renovation is very expensive, and keeping it going and keeping the lights on is very expensive, and it's exciting, and the community music school is just at the beginning of growing, but it's got to be supported.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenges, I think funding, available grant monies, government support, it's tough in the United States. It really is.
Yeah. And I lived in Grand Rapids for a number of years, which is just a deep well of private and family foundations, just tons of philanthropic. Grand Valley explicitly has a program that's the Johnson Center for Philanthropy. I don't know of many other places that have programs like that for such a small sized town, right? It's not Chicago. It's not, but we're not Kent County, and there's some very generous folks here. But as things change and evolve, how do you keep that momentum? How do you keep people interested? How do you make sure that the performing arts are continually supported? Because a lot of the performing arts around here, arguably maybe 90+% of them, if not all of them, so far are nonprofits. And it's its own challenge, right? Is fundraising, because you're competing against each other in that way, but you also hope to be able to share the pot at the same time, because there's such great collaborations that can happen too. When we see a little bit of that crossover, I think more could happen of theater companies or theater and the Phil coming together and doing sing-along opera or I don't know, something, performed something. But there's incredible things that everyone's doing. And so how do we make sure that, my generation, the generation after me, want to support it and can support it? And that is a challenge. How about you, Bill? Any additional thoughts?
No, just kind of mirroring, because space definitely is an issue with theater stuff. And I'm going to put a plug in here, but with the start of the mashup space, their mission behind that was, yes, to give mashup a home base. So we didn't have to keep doing it, but all the remote stuff, but also to give opportunities to up-and-coming theater people, give them the opportunities that mashup didn't have. Because when I first joined them 10 years ago, we were at the Inside Out Gallery. And that at the time was very run down, very just, okay, are we, is the roof going to stay up while we're in here? And wiring was bad. And so when that closed, there was hardly any place to go to. And I mean, we do have the Alluvion now, but that seems, from a theater perspective, that seems very geared towards music. But, with the mashup space now, it's just like there is an opportunity for other theater companies to find, hopefully, a home. And then with that is the keeping the lights on, keeping, that space available for people to do. But, again, echoing the climate of grants and funding and having that funding, but I mean, you're always going to have strings on funding, but to be able to do the art that you want, that the community needs, with those funds, I think is a challenge too.
Yeah.
So.
The Match is definitely a really great place for theatrical performances, but I think it's also could be great for unique performances with the Phil or a traveling troupe, that wants to come in, or if you have your own traveling performance and, this weekend it's in town and then next weekend it's in Glen Arbor and the next weekend it's in Northport. Like that's a thing that I don't see happen in Northern Michigan is basically like a traveling performance of any kind. I think the closest I've seen is Benzie Symphony Orchestra. They've played at a couple places, their local high school, but I've seen them at Interlochen. So they kind of get around in that sense, but that's pretty hard with that size of orchestra. It's not like a quartet, right?
There is a group coming up this winter, and they've done it, I think, at least the previous winter, maybe two. It's like a retelling of the story of Ebenezer Scrooge.
Oh, fun.
And it goes from town to town to town through the wintertime.
Nice.
So, and this year they're performing at the Match Space. So.
Great. We'll have to make sure we share that.
Yep.
We'll wrap up with one larger question and then we'll zip into our rapid fire. But from both of you, what do you think is a piece of advice you would like to give someone either interested in learning a new instrument at any given age or maybe diving into education for the first time, having never done it before, or lighting design? Like what piece of advice would you give to someone of any age starting something new?
Well, for lighting, I reflected on this, is find also other visual art sources outside of theater, like whether it's an art appreciation class or I know for me, photography helped a lot because lighting is about, yes, the visuals, how to see the world differently. And so doing that through the eye of camera or seeing other people's, and it's also about emotions. So seeing emotional representation in other pieces of art will kind of stir the brain some, but it also give you different perspectives of how to see the world. So depending on whether the play is realistic or, whether it's words are failing right now.
You're fine.
But, it gives you that different perspective on the world that you can draw from for those looks you need for the lighting of the stage.
So the niche that is lighting design shouldn't just be focused on what colors am I thinking about, but also influences of other art to inspire you to create your canvas of lighting.
And even music, because there are times where when I'm designing by myself, I will have some sort of soundtrack going, and it may be in line with the show, whether it's, if it's set in the 40s, maybe I'm doing big band music or something like that, but it could also be, punk rock in the 1940s genre or something, so it's something that motivates my soul, gives that emotional response in me to be able to come up with what I put on stage. So doing something artistic involvement, you don't have to go play the instrument. You could go to the Phil and learn how to play, but just having other artistic influences on you besides just lighting.
Yeah. Yep. Again, that idea of collaboration, it's not just in the act of doing it, it's like the preparation even of doing it. Yeah, that's good. I've not thought about that myself. I've just like, do this thing. Okay, go do the thing. Instead of thinking of all the other ways that art can support the one thing that you're doing in art.
Yeah. Because on my phone, from having taken photography class, there are numerous photos on my phone of me wandering around, and at night I'll see shadows, light and shadows on the ground through the trees or other man-made structures, and it's like, ooh, taking pictures of that for influence, or the color of a sky. It's just like, okay, what does that emotionally pull from me? Because for me, at least, I mean, you and I have talked about this, but for me, lighting is very emotional, whether it's because I think you touched on this earlier, lighting is a character or can be or should be, and so as characters, they have their own emotions. So how you draw emotion, what you find to draw that emotion out of you is very helpful.
Nice.
In theater.
Yeah.
So.
How about you?
Well, I think in terms of, playing a musical instrument, I would suggest to anyone who is interested, who has never played at any age, to go ahead and be, brave and reach out and do it. For kids, it's often dependent on, whether or not a parent supports you in that direction or you have the opportunity at school. But for adults, what I've learned from certainly working with the civic organization is that there are so many adults of different ages who have found such joy and self-fulfillment in playing an instrument, whether they're starting at the age of, 50 or 60 or 45 or whatever. And it's harder. We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast started, about how hard it is to start something new, especially playing an instrument or something like that. As an adult, how easy it is as a child to just be, kind of recklessly joyful about it and pick it up and experiment with it and be very, very bold. But adults want a particular sound right away and are much more self-critical, so it's harder for them. But, to just pursue it. And I think that Civic offers a way for those people to share what they're interested in and what they love. And it's been wonderful to watch adults sitting side by side with students, with much younger students, because they see that it's so much easier for the younger kids to feel, we don't care if we make a mistake. No, we're trying not to make a mistake, but it's not a big deal if we do, whereas adults get so hung up with making mistakes. And yet, for the kids, for the students, to see these older people plugging away, they come in every week, they're, they're dedicated, they don't have to be there. No parent is making them be there. And they are there, and they're enjoying it, and they're modeling lifelong learning. And, what could be better? It's magical. I would never go back to having a youth orchestra situation because I think that this blend has been one of the most educational things I've ever experienced. I've learned so much from working with multi-age groups. So it's unusual. You just don't find it in many communities, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, I know it's a thing that I missed when I was in Los Angeles. During the pandemic in particular, I went back to voice lessons, and that was easier, I guess I'd say, through digital, like a Zoom kind of thing. And that's fun. And I did choir for a number of years, but I kind of choired out, I guess. But, playing an instrument at home and rehearsing for the orchestra music is so lovely and great, but that it's so much better when you get to the rehearsal because you are sitting with everyone else and you're like, oh, this is what it sounds like when it's all together.
Yeah.
And I get out of my head more. I get so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, this syncopation is just killing me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm the only adult in my section. And so for like first day, I was like, this is a little humbling. But this is good. This is good. This is great. And I'm like, these kids are not like, I'm not sitting next to Yo-Yo Ma, and who probably would be very generous anyway, but they're chilled. They laugh at the same stuff you laugh at and whatever. And then you get to play and you realize, oh yeah, well, we don't always bow in the same direction together. And that's also feels good to know that you're just doing it, and it's not about perfection ever.
Yeah.
It's about the fun and the joy and hearing what we can put together and getting comfortable with the music and getting comfortable with playing with each other. And, when the folks need to be quieter and these need to be, and just all of that coming together just really helps, I think, you mentally get out of your own head. Because you're like, it's not about you. They can't hear you, which is what an orchestra should sound like, right? I mean, it's a beautiful blend of those voices. So.
Wow. And we're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to have you playing with us.
I'm a little bit more nervous, I'll be honest, about chamber because I'm the first and only viola in the prelude chamber.
Chamber music is different.
Yes.
There's no conductor. You are staying together through watching and listening and the way you move your body, and it's so much more exposed.
Yeah.
But isn't it cool that you have both of those programs offered so that you can get those two different experiences that really inform one another? And make you a better player in the other group as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like orchestra it's sort of my warm-up to chamber, really.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, great. No, we went through that enough that I feel good about that. And then you get to chamber and you're like, okay, completely different set of music. Aside from one song, a bit easier in that sense, but harder because for me at least, I'm the only one holding down the fort on the viola. And I might match the other inner voices of a second or maybe a cello, but that's less common. And so you get a little bit more in your head of like, can everyone hear that I'm not playing the low two when I should, or whatever. But everyone's they're so nice about it too, and such different levels too.
Yeah.
And we somehow still have 3 cellos. That's
I'm
the
telling
cellos
you,
are multiplying like
it
gremlins these days.
literally,
We're like
literally,
feeding
it
them
is
after
such-
midnight.
It's such a popular instrument right now. It really is.
It's my favorite instrument, honestly. I love my viola. I've named her. And I did play cello for about 6 months. And I've seen Yo-Yo Ma, and I will see him again in March. But again, the sound of it and everything. But I do love being so much a part of 2 different types of music and figuring out myself, too, where I'm at. I'm shocked of how much I remembered from high school and, elementary, middle, and high school. I'm shocked how much retained.
Yeah, it's a muscle memory.
Yeah. I wish the music theory had stuck a little bit more, but that part's harder for me still. But I love a good challenge, though. I'm a lifelong learner person. So
you're perfect for these programs at the community music school. You are. And there's other people out there too who are perfect. So
I look forward. I've talked to some people who are interested in other aspects of it, whether it's tuba or clarinet or just different aspects. So I'm solely evangelizing for the TC Phil.
Great.
And I plan to come when I have enough other bodies to take over some of my responsibilities.
You got to find the gremlins for the lighting.
They're slowly coming out of the woodwork. So
all
need
right.
to get cellos to give them whatever they're doing to splash.
All right. Let's do our rapid fire. So I will start with you first, Bill.
Good.
The idea is we just talked about this. Don't get in your head too much, but it's really the first thing that comes to your mind. It's 5 questions. Are you ready?
Okay. Sure.
All right. What is your favorite performance space?
Honestly, was always a pain, but some of the spaces we worked at with Mashup.
All right.
Just going in and being like, okay, how do I make this work?
A new space.
A new space.
Got it. Favorite show you've worked on for lighting design?
I think one of my most recent is Radium Girls. Just because for one of the first times in a long time, I tried to make, as we discussed, the character of lighting kind of just fit in seamlessly. But with the way that Radium Girls was, I made it very different and tried to make it in your face with some of the subtext became text with some of the imagery I put up there.
That evil green radium.
And the cogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Dream show to light design for?
Once on this Island.
Okay. Favorite performance ritual, something you do ahead of performing or light board for you?
Most times slam an energy drink.
Energy drink. It's a common theme among these. All right. And finally, favorite thing to do in Michigan outside of the performing arts?
Hiking.
All right. All right, Lynn. Your turn. Favorite concert you've performed in?
Oh, favorite concert I've performed in. I don't think I can narrow it down to one, but I would have to say that any symphonic concert where I have been fortunate enough to play a symphony of Gustav Mahler, there's nothing like it.
Love it.
Yeah, there's nothing like that experience.
Love that. Favorite performance space?
Performance space. And again, instead of a single space, I would have to say I love playing in churches. I love really live spaces. They're not always the best for listening, but they're really fun to play in.
Yeah.
Really live spaces.
A dream concert or piece that you'd love to perform?
Ooh, I've played for so many years. I've been lucky to play so many pieces. Oh, gosh.
Or one that has been a dream to play.
Like are we talking about a specific piece?
Sure. Or a whole, it could be a suite, it could be whatever you like. This one's a little harder for stringed instruments. We could say Mahler? Mahler again?
There are so many classical composers who you can't live without. That's why, for me, being asked, what's your desert island composer? If you were stuck on a desert island, could hear nothing but this one composer. And, Mahler floats to mind, but, could you live without Bach? I don't think so. There are just could you live without Beethoven? there's no way. So I would say I can't answer that. There's
Right.
there's too much.
I
There's
love
too
it.
much that's out there that's just exceptional.
That's great. Do you have a performance ritual or favorite performance ritual you do before you play?
You know, I do not. I am a highly nervous person. So, there's always before every performance, not so much when I'm playing in an orchestra, there's that safety in numbers kind of thing that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
I feel pretty settled doing that. But, if I'm conducting, if I'm playing something that's very exposed, any kind of a solo, no, deep breathing, drinking water, all of that stuff, just trying to focus.
Great.
The focus thing is what's so important.
Yeah. And your favorite thing to do in Michigan outside of the performing arts?
Oh my gosh, it's just so Northern Michigan. Come on. We live in paradise. And I would say recently it's been chasing the Northern Lights because it's been the last couple of years have been exceptional for opportunities to see them. So I'm somebody who on a clear night is always watching my Northern Lights app and, out there seeing the aurora, which I've been fortunate enough to see on quite a few occasions. So I'd say that's it.
That's a great one. Thank you both so much for coming on. Great discussions. I have learned so much about both of you, and I bet our listeners will have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation as well. So thank you both.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yes.